Yeah.
All right. We're just having a little chat here from the Tactical Sovereignty Group, and I'm here with one of our friends from the group. What name do you want me to call you by?
Just call me whatever you want. Liam, Marcus,
All right,
guy from
all
Tampa,
right,
whatever.
all right. Well, we'll just use Liam, I guess, then, because people like to know who's talking and stuff like that. And a lot of times people want to use like some pseudonyms or like that. And when I see a lot of people on social media using just totally bogus names and things, it kind of throws up a red flag. It's a little bit of like suspicion or something like that. You know what I mean?
I do. I do. What do you call yourself when you're up here on this platform?
I'm just Brian. You know,
Okay.
Brian.
Well, I'm
I
just
was
Liam then. Let's go with that.
uh,
Nice and simple.
I was named Brian Glenn by my parents, and the state decided to tack on the surname like they do with everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interestingly,
Well,
I was actually I had to take care of a gaming license yesterday, and the woman I was dealing with, she was like, she's like, I punched in a wrong number on the last four of your social, and she said I was surprised it still came up with a Parker, you know, and I was like, well, I said actually what they do, basically from what I understand, that people track through the system is with now people that only have like a three-letter last name or two-letter. I don't know how that works, but they use the first four letters of the surname and then the last four numbers of the social. And that's kind of the
okay.
moniker that they use to track people or tag people, whatever. But anyway, just something kind of curious there.
Well,
So
talking
I know
on
you had
talking
something
in reference
in
to
your
that
mind.
a little bit. Let's say that you get a letter from the governmental agencies that says Mr. Parker. Would you have an issue with that? Because that to me is like creating a fiction as well with a title, utilizing half of your name. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't call it a fiction. I would refer to it as an artificial entity. There's a big difference between a fiction and an artificial entity. A lot of people, or a majority of people, seem to like to use the word fiction all the time, but that's not really correct. But no, yeah, I would have a difficulty with it because Mr. Parker could be any male with the surname of Parker. It does not identify me. So, yeah, I'd have an issue with that.
Yeah, that definitely does make sense. Now, let me ask you this: if an attorney's office or firm, a law firm, sends you a letter with a title like that, would you? Do you know if they're doing this on purpose? Do you know if they know what they're doing?
You know what? And that's one of the things that gets me too is a lot of people, if they like go to the DMV or the BMV for their auto or whatever, they seem to think that that person on the other side of the desk is like James Bond and they know everything that's going on and they're going to get you. You know what I mean? Which is far, far from the truth. Those people on the other side of the desk, and it's the same thing in an attorney's firm. Majority of them don't know details. Now, the ones that do know more of the details, those people end up moving into becoming judges or something like that because they've got dangerous information. You know what I mean? And so they've got to make sure that they're part of the team. But I've spoke with many attorneys, and there's things that they do know, but then there's other stuff that they really don't. Um, an
Mm,
important example of that would be if someone gets an attorney to assist them, say, with a bankruptcy case. All right. Well, guess what? That type of attorney, all he handles is those financial situations, you know, like bankruptcy, for instance. And now, if you had a question for that attorney regarding a divorce you're going through, he might have a general idea, but really has no specific clue as how to really answer you because that's not his field of expertise. You know what I'm
Of
saying?
course, of course.
It's like going to a mechanic who specializes in transmissions and asking him something, about the engine or the manifold. You know, that's not
Hmm.
something that they deal with on a regular basis. So they really don't have full knowledge of the situation.
Hmm. That's a very good point that you're bringing right there in reference to a mechanic. Now let's switch it to attorneys because um, I'm interested in throwing in monkey wrenches against attorneys. So let's continue on this line of talk in reference to the title Mr. Whatever from a firm. Let's say that you write a letter to abate them on that little issue. Um, would that be proper? Would that be a proper thing to do to respond to them and tell them, hey, I have no idea what the heck you're talking about. Who is this? Talking to me, or are you talking to a Mr. Parker in general, which is millions of them out there?
Right. Uh,
Because
I
I
would probably
think
just
that
advise.
if they're attorneys, they should know the law, right? Just like a mechanic, if it's a professional mechanic, then they should know how to fix a car.
Right.
So
Well,
you want to ask
well,
the questions before you go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
they really don't know the law. They might know the law on, like I said, maybe specific issues, but they generally really just know
Yeah.
procedure is what they are most balanced in, because
Right.
the law kind of morphs from one situation to another. Different nuances that can be added into a situation will change how the law looks at something. You know what I mean? So they really focus more on procedure and how to argue, how to present their case.
Right. Yeah. Which brings me to I have my corgis around here. I'm outside. Anyway, so that brings me to their arguments. It seems to me that um, they like to make a lot of legal determinations. Wouldn't you say that they like to do that in their arguments?
No, I would say no to that. And people have to realize what a legal determination is. Excuse me.
Hmm?
And
Yeah.
that's something that I see in like a lot of affidavits people write. Their affidavits get ignored
Yeah.
and they don't know why. It's because they're making a legal determination uh, within their affidavit, for instance. Let me give you an example of that. If you wrote an affidavit regarding an incident that you had, that say, for instance, I had with you, okay, and I write an affidavit and I say, I was sitting on my porch minding my own business, and Liam came over and assaulted me. The courts would totally ignore that because assault is a decision. That's a judicial decision. And so you've just
Mhm.
made a legal determination there. And it is not your position to make a legal determination. That is up to the court or up to the judge or administrator, whatever the case may be. It's their job to make a legal determination. So they would ignore that. So instead, what you would write, for instance, instead of me saying, Liam came up on my porch and assaulted me, I would say, Liam uh, stepped onto my porch uninvited and punched me with his right hand with a closed fist and hit me twice in the left cheek. That would be
Mm.
the way that statement would be made. So if you listen to arguments or motions or complaints or whatever attorneys are giving in court, listen close to their words. Listen very close to their words. I was actually witnessing a situation one time where I don't remember exactly what the attorney had said, but the judge stopped him and she said, "Is that a legal term?" I mean, he threw out just a slang word or something like that, right? And they don't want to hear that. They want to hear, you know, real words that are used in our language. And so he had to rephrase his statement, you know.
Right. Sure. Gotcha. Well, that makes a lot of sense. It's that's something that I, for one, I get into writing, pleadings and things of that nature. It's very easy to start putting in legal determinations. It's very, very easy.
It's a little bit
When I
louder,
get,
Liam. A little bit louder.
yeah, it's very easy to actually, when I've gotten caught in my pleadings, whenever I go to court and whatever, I've gotten caught on making legal determinations, and it's funny because some of the attorneys that have actually assisted me, they haven't even mentioned anything like that, and I get caught on that, and have to then amend the pleadings again and again and again until I get it right. So it's I think it's important that this is brought out so that everybody knows, so that everybody can actually practice this properly. It's very easy to get carried away, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. Yeah. And like I say, the attorneys aren't going to mention it to you or say anything to you about it because this is some of their personal knowledge within the system, and they've paid for that knowledge, and they're not going to give it away to anybody for free. And so, like I said, people will have maybe affidavits they write or complaints or whatever ignored by the court, and they don't know why. The courts don't tell them why. You know.
Hmm. That would probably happen with any pleadings or any abatements or affidavits. That's very important that everybody understands that as well. Now,
Right. Any communication with them.
what's that?
I said any communication at all with them.
Right. Correct.
This,
Yes,
this would be
correct.
applicable. Yeah.
Now let's jump onto the I guess what we were talking about the other day, which is very interesting because I had a car over here in reference to the title and junking the title that the state has over your car. Okay, junking that title, I guess canceling would be the other terminology that is proper. Would you say that is correct? Instead of writing on it junked, could you say that it's been canceled?
Well, you don't have the authority to do that, but there are like places that do have that authority. Say like a junkyard, they can junk a title, and they
Okay.
can state the reason why the vehicle is junked or whatever. And then if you were to go back and rectify that, you've essentially created a vehicle on your own. You are now kind of the manufacturer, so you could do your own title.
Okay, let's go over that one more time. So I have the title, but you're saying that I don't have the authority to write on it junked and send it to the DMV, correct?
Correct. Yes.
So what I would do instead is take the title to a junkyard and have them write junked on it.
Yeah. I don't know if probably depends on the state. I don't know if junk is the correct terminology necessarily, but they're the ones with the authority to do whatever it would take to nullify the title or titles, both equitable and legal title that are on that vehicle.
Okay. So let's say that I just perhaps do the mistake of writing junked or writing canceled, and I send that in to the DMV. A few weeks later, I check the status against any records that I may have with the state, say the driver's license or whatever. I don't see the car attached to the driver's license anymore. What happened there? Did they actually accept that and cancel the title? I'm asking because that's what happened to me. I just, I junked the title. I wrote cancel ab initio and junked it, and I sent it to the DMV. Months later, I checked on the database. There's no car attached to the driver's license. It doesn't exist in their database
Well,
anymore.
I don't how do you see a car attached to a driver's license? I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before.
Let's see. Let me see if I can appraise that. If I can remember. Let's see. Well, usually when you go online, you see the cars that are attached to the driver's license for the purpose of purchasing a tag for the car.
All right, so
That's
you're looking
how
through
I've seen it.
you're looking through the registrations then.
No. The last time that I did a search for the driver's license, and the car attached to the driver's license was just only one. It should have been two. There was only one. I wasn't doing a search for the car.
Yeah, that's something that I'm not familiar with, so I really don't know. I've never seen anything like that on a driver's license search regarding a vehicle. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I've had plenty of vehicles that I've used that weren't registered; they were only titled to me. And whoever that got sent to, if you were junked on it or whatever, we got to understand. Like I was saying, these people at the counter are just human beings like the rest of us. Sometimes they're a little subhuman, and like the rest of us, they want to get to work as late as possible, do as little as possible, and get home as early as possible. You know what I mean? They aren't out, to be the watchdog for the government or anything like that. So, it might have landed on the desk of somebody that didn't want to mess with writing you back and going through the back and forth with telling you how to get the title junked or whatever. They might just whatever and just done it. Oh, I'm only working here for 2 more weeks anyway. Who gives a shit? You know what I
mean? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I got that. That's probably what happened. I don't know. I really don't know. But what would be the ramifications then? Would you know, or do you know of anyone? What would be the ramifications of then me then creating my own title to the car and going out there? Now we haven't talked about getting insurance for this. We're just talking about the title. That would be totally different. But what do you think the ramifications would be then? If you have some experience with that.
Yeah, well, I mean that
you get caught.
This is kind of a right. Well, this would be just kind of a learning experience or whatever. You're going to get a lot of issues with a traffic encounter if the vehicle is insured, right? The main things they want to make sure is when the vehicle is insured, you know what I mean? And so I would probably go the route of learning how to create a manufacturer certificate of origin as being the creator of the vehicle when establishing a new title for it. And I know there's a lot of people out there that they're gonna say, oh, you just register it with the DOT, Department of Transportation. You put it in a irrevocable trust, and that stuff's all blah 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 blah. It means having a vehicle in a trust, the only protection there is with that is, say, if you were to pass away, as far as who gets your property, it has nothing to do with what people are doing on the road with their vehicle, whether it's in a trust or not. People can still get ticketed just the same. It can still be impounded, even if it's in a trust. Doesn't mean crap.
But this right here that you just mentioned, creating your own manufacturer certificate of origin and your own title, that creates a stopple of some sort.
Right. Well, that's going to be a prevention as far as a state's claim to equitable title that they hold, because there's those two titles that are created for the vehicle, and the dealership goes in, they give you the legal title, which allows you to do all the legal things with the vehicle, like get it insured, get it registered, sell it, dispose of it. You get the legal aspects with the legal title. That's what a legal title affords you. The holder of the equitable title, they basically sit back and make profits off from it, like when it's registered, insured, or ticketed, things like that. And they're actually holding a supreme ownership to the vehicle as well. Ownership is held in two things simultaneously. One is possession, which they say is 90%, and title, which is 10%. Even though possession is 90%, that 10%, the title, outweighs the 90%.
Yeah.
The best example is if somebody stole the vehicle. Well, it's in their possession. That gives them 90%, right? But if you've got title, you've got that 10%, which is the strongest. And that's where your remedy would be at in a situation like that.
Correct. Okay, very good. So that's why it's so important to get rid of that title that the state possesses over your car. And in fact, if you do get a brand new car, it's best to not even register it. Just take it out of the dealership. Correct? I know that here in Florida, there is a form that you can give to the dealership, and practically, hold them harmless for doing what you're doing, just taking the car without registering it. So you take home the manufacturer a certificate of origin with you, I guess. And I never done it, but I assume that they would have to give it to you, correct?
Right. Well, a lot of times, and I believe it's like an affidavit you have to sign with them. I know,
yes,
for instance, Department of Motor Vehicles even have affidavits for you to sign. For instance, say that you've sold a vehicle, but the person hasn't registered it or anything, and they've been going through toll booths and not paying. And the state wants to come after you for the tolls. They've, for instance, got an affidavit there that you can sign stating that you sold the vehicle. It's not in your possession anymore. Everything is run pretty much on a split title situation. That's kind of the scheme behind the scenes with all property. Okay.
I've always wanted to know. I know that you have. How many? Do you mind asking me asking you how many cars you have? I don't know. I don't even know if this is a proper question for you, but you let me know or stop me.
How many stars?
How many cars?
Oh, cars. Right now I have 2. If you asked me a couple of months ago, I had 4 at that time. But I was just like, you know what? This is kind of unnecessary and taking up space. So I got rid of 2 of them.
Sure. Okay. So I know one of them is registered and has, whatever it is that you want to deal with the DMV. How about the second one? What is the status on the second one that you have?
The status of the second one is that it is registered. I've had the vehicle for like 10 years, and I just never really used it. But I had somebody come visit me here about 2 years ago, and I knew there was no way they were going to drive it without plates or anything on it. So just to calm any worries that they might have had, I went ahead and plated it and registered it for them. And the situation that I see, because, I think people fall down a couple rabbit holes early on. A popular one, for instance, is the Patriot rabbit hole, and feeling a duty or an honor to, serve or hold a position or whatever when it comes to the state, and, just be a good citizen, that kind of thing. And another one of the rabbit holes that a lot of other people go down is the whole driver's license issue and license plate issue. And I
Huh?
find that one kind of bizarre because I don't really see a reason for people to have a problem with doing it. I think the problem is in how you do it. Everybody is taught just to do things the way everybody else does it because that's the way it's always been done, which is one of the answers
Yeah,
that I dislike the most. You know what I mean? Because if everybody just
yeah,
continues
yeah.
doing everything the way it's always been done, then guess what? Everybody's going to remain stuck in that same freaking trap that everybody else is in. Yeah, nothing's going to ever change.
Right, yeah.
And and I see some people, like I mentioned, DOT before. People saying to put it in a trust and register it with the DOT, get it out of commerce. You know what I mean? And
Oh my gosh,
I'm
yes.
like, wait a minute. So you think it's bad to register? And let me say this too. One of the worst things that floats around the whole Patriot community, or whatever you want to call it, truther community, regarding this issue, is that registration transfers ownership, which is false. Registration does not transfer ownership. I don't care if you go into etymology and there's the REGIS, they're the Regis and the Royal. No, it has nothing to do with ownership. It might have had something to do with ownership 200 or 300 years ago, but the way things are set up today, no, it doesn't. And the ownership is set up through the legal title situation. It just frustrates me that they think that it's better registration, but and get a DOT and I see people all the time claiming, "Oh, well, I'll tell you what, drive, keep your eye out for that every vehicle you see with that DOT tag on it or the number on the side of the front of the truck or whatever, they're all commercial vehicles. They're
Yeah.
all business vehicles. So I don't know where this idea that it gets you out of commerce has anything to do with. Um, the Florida license, and I don't call it driver's license because it no longer is a driver's license. It's just a standard. If you flip it over and look on the back of it, it says non-commercial.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
correct.
if you do if you do have a commercial license, there's all sorts of hoops you have to jump through that the average Joe doesn't have. Weight and size of the vehicle. You might even have to get a medical certificate, in order to opt that commercial vehicle listed in commerce. So no, that I would have to look at other states' licenses, um, but I would say, according to like Florida's, it's not a commercial document. What they've done, and because now they've come out with, if you have the gold star on it, it's
Huh?
part of this new act or whatever for licensing, and you're compliant. It shows
The
that the
real
state is
ID?
compliant.
The real ID,
Yeah,
I think.
the Real ID Act, and what they've done is
Yeah.
they've transferred card from being listed as a driver's license to basically now being like a federal ID. It is more of what it really is, because the Real ID Act falls under the federal government. And that's why there are federal stipulations that come along with that card as to whether or not you're going to be able to fly, uh, maybe intergovernmental buildings, things like that, federal buildings specifically, whether or not that gold star is on there. And I also find it kind of interesting that the first time in recent history, anyway, that people that this was something propagated by Germany. That they had to wear a gold star to label who they were. And that's all they came up with the gold star to put on the license.
Mhm.
Florida became compliant. The DMV for motor vehicles, they had a sign up on the documentation you needed to obtain this. And after Florida became compliant, that sign wasn't there anymore. Instead, documentation needed for a license. They got rid of that word driver.
Okay. Now, I have a couple of I forgot about one, but one particular issue about the DOT that I wanted to bring up is that I did that. I did the application for the DOT, okay, and I did it because I wanted to go through the process to see what this was all about, okay. I wasn't going to really use it, but something happened that is very interesting. There are two things that you can do when you file the application. Is that it asks you if it's going to be a commercial thing or a non-commercial thing. Okay, well, I selected non-commercial. All right. Now, if it's a commercial thing, they harass you every year trying to pay a fee or something like that and answer a bunch of questions and questionnaires and things of that nature. Well, it so happened that I didn't file it, and they sent me to Tallahassee to talk to a sergeant over there for the Department of Transportation, and I explicitly told him that I was private, non-commercial, and he literally told me, well, but you don't, we're going to keep the application, the number for you, the Department of Transportation number, the DOT number for you, but we're going to have to close the account because you're a private driver type of deal. Your car is a private mode of transportation. You're not carrying anything commercial in it, interstate wise or within the state. That was very interesting. Very, very interesting. So what I have up there is practically my car, practically in their database as a private, non-commercial car. That was very interesting. Now, what does that do? Is that something that anybody can actually use? I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know if that can actually be used as evidence in a court. Maybe, I don't know, but that's what I learned from that. I don't know. I don't think that it was a waste of time for me to do that because, just like you said, there have been a lot of Patriot rabbit holes in regards to the DOT, people using the number on their car to specify that it's private. But I've actually seen videos where highway patrol stop people with those plates and take the plates off their car and impound the cars, just like you said. Okay, probably again going back to the fact that the equitable title is owned by the state, just like you said. That 10%, that is the most important part of ownership.
Exactly.
The state still has it. So
exactly.
So that's I guess it's just like what you mentioned in one of your posts. There's so many things that one can do, but there's only one exit door out of each of these subroutines within this matrix that we're in. There's only one remedy, and I think you got it there, my friend. I think you got the remedy starts with us as men and women, which is detaching ourselves from the presumption, because it's all presumption. Even the Supreme Court states that any court, any administrative court, has the right to try you if you present yourself to that court and authorize the jurisdiction that the court has over you. You're practically authorizing jurisdiction over to that court over you until you object, and then you can tell them that no, enough is enough. You have no authority because of what you've done, because you practically resign the representation over that artificial entity, right? Is that what you would call it? Artificial entity. And that is the most important thing,
state,
because Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
the state, according to the revisers of UCC, Uniform Commercial Code, Title 9, they state that birth certificate is an organization and that the state's responsibility is to maintain records of all registered organizations. And so that certificate is the registration of that organization. I said in the beginning, I said, Mom and Dad named me Brian Glenn, but the state created an organization and they put the surname Parker on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, I mean, the very first step then, because that's natural, everybody that's born here, that is how they get you. That is
Yeah.
the one and only thing you can do is let them know, hey, I am not attached to that organization. And so myself, in fact, what I did, and I thought, so what do? Do you create something else? And it's like, yeah, because you have to have that monopoly piece to play with in the system, because that's all they recognize are those little artificial organizations, artificial entities, And I thought, well, okay, well, what did they do? They went and they use the same name that mom and dad give a child, and they create an organization with it. And speaking of like the driver's license, for instance, if people look at the number on the driver's license, that very last number is typically going to be you're going to see it's going to be a hyphen, then it'll be a 0, a 1, a 2, a 3, maybe a 4, maybe a stretch further, a 5. And the reason why is because that last number is identifying how many people within the state have the same name as you.
Fascinating.
So
yeah,
if there's like, say if your name is Bill Smith, say your name is George William Smith, there might be a 3 at the end of your name. All right. There's a lot of George William Smiths out there. And number 3 being, well, there's 3 organizations that have that name. They are not all related to each other. They're all separate organizations. So I thought, okay, well, I'll just do what the state did. Since they went and took the name Dad gave me and tacked a surname on it and created an artificial organization, I'll do the same thing. I'll take the name Mom and Dad gave me and tack a surname on it, and boom, now that's another organization. And just go get an EIN number for it, showing that it's separate, and then notify the state, hey, I've got my organization. I am no longer agent or representative of your organization. And in fact, on the resignation I sent them, I said, if you feel that your organization needs representation, I would recommend that you find somebody or appoint somebody, forthwith. Which I doubt that they did, because that organization, that name, the people out there, this isn't our split title situation. Okay. There is something I believe from U.S. code floating around. I've seen a few times out there. The person or the citizen, it says, the citizen is a Seneca trust and a co-beneficiary to it. Co-trust. Oh, there's your split title again. So if you are co-trustee to the citizen, well, who would be the other trustee? And that's very simply put right out in front of our face. They're called representatives. Every state has a House of Representatives. And those representatives are voted on by the general public to represent them, to represent them, and to do their will. So that automatically, right there, you see they are they are the co-trustee to the citizen. And that piece of paper, that birth certificate, that is the citizen, not the physical boy or girl. That piece of paper is. And by you representing it, you become a co-trustee and beneficiary to the citizen, just like whoever is seated in your district for your House of Representatives is. Which to me, that's another great reason to rescind the voters registration. Whether or not you've ever voted or ever signed up to vote or not, odds are you got a driver's license, you're on the rolls. I mean, a lot of people tell me, "Oh, I've never voted, I've never registered, I don't have one." Da da da. I'm like, okay, what county do you live? You know, what state? What county do you live? And within like 10 minutes, I'll send them the registration number for voter registration. You can easily find them online.
Oh, that's amazing. So they practically create these things automatically for people?
Yeah, it's just by operation of law. These things are created and put in place, and it's been done for so long. I think people don't even think about it. Even people within government offices or the secretaries, right? It's just something they do. They don't really even know why they do it. It's just part of their job, you know.
You know, something that I ran into a few months ago. I ran into something that state agencies create. It's called the affidavit of let's see, the affidavit of same name or something like that, where if somebody goes into court claiming that they are, let's say, Liam, okay, but the header of the case is not Liam, it's something else, is Brian Parker. Okay, so automatically, not automatically, because they have to file the affidavit of same name, they're claiming that Liam and Brian Parker are the same person. It's an affidavit of same person under different names. See what I mean?
Right. Well, there's somebody
That
out there that
would that be an operation? Would that be a legal operation that you just mentioned? Operation of law?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that like
Yeah,
a procedural thing?
Yeah, there's somebody out there right now, actually, who a lot of people have heard of. You ever heard of Billy Carson?
I don't know. Who is that? What does he do?
Billy Carson. Oh, he's got new YouTubes and interviews coming out just about every day. He's written a book on the Emerald Tablets. It's actually called the Compendium to the Emerald Tablets. I guess it's become a bestseller or whatever. But Billy Carson has basically just run with the story that was started by Zachariah Sitchin regarding the Anunnaki needing gold to protect their planet, and so they created human beings to harvest the gold for them. Anyway, that's the foundation of the story. But Billy Carson had a situation. His name isn't really Billy Carson. He ran into a situation where somebody stole his vehicle, and his vehicle had his driver's license in it. And this guy was out committing all sorts of crimes and had been arrested like 3 times using the name that Billy Carson was born with. And Billy Carson had so many legal problems with it, stuff like that, that he actually ended up just changing his name. And he didn't change it a whole lot from what it originally was, but he changed it to Billy Carson, and that's what he uses today.
Fascinating. That's really interesting. Well, it's that is kind of problematic. I know the individual that was handed the affidavit of same person. I know this individual did the process that you've done, and he presented this information to the prosecutor, and it practically just derailed them. It derailed the whole process of them trying to get a warrant for his arrest. The sheriff couldn't find this individual. They couldn't link the 2 names together, so they created the affidavit of same person. But it still derailed them because the name that they wanted to attach.
Hold on, affidavit of same person or affidavit of same name?
It's and now, I have to look it up, my friend. I'll text it to you, but it has something to do with an affidavit of the same name for the same person or something like that, or the same person with different names. I'll look it up, and then you can post it.
Yeah, I'd say it's affidavit the same name. That's probably what it is.
Yeah. So they, he filed the process of resigning the representation for the agent and all that, according to the law of agency, and practically that derailed the sheriff from continuing to try to link these two names into one person. Literally,
right.
The warrant for the arrest of this individual was actually rescinded, sent back. Practically, they couldn't do anything.
Right. Well, and he became. I would say he was very fortunate in that situation, and there may have been a couple other things that happened within that case, because if a court administrator or judge is on top of their game, all right, in a situation like this, then there's also something else that they do that people don't recognize, because the court has to establish minimum points of contact for personal jurisdiction. And I think anybody who's been to court for anything will remember the opening statements from the judge to them would be, are you John Doe? And so people all think, oh, that's the problem right there, and that's not really the problem. And they'll say, yeah, and they'll be like, do you live at or reside at 123 Maple Street? And they'll be like, yeah, that's my address. How long have you lived there? So they're just kind of solidifying that fact, right? Oh, I've been there 3 years. Okay. Are you currently employed? Are you currently employed? Yeah, I work at such and such, And so right there, they're establishing those minimum points of contact. They're letting you establish personal jurisdiction for them so that they don't have to prove it. So that right there shows you some of the things that you can take care of to eliminate that issue. I saw a gentleman in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He was in front of the judge, and he was trying to claim all sorts of crazy stuff or whatever. And the judge just finally said to him, he's like, okay, where does the physical you live at? Where you go to sleep at? And then he said, do you have a bank account? He says, oh yeah, I've got a bank account with such a bank. I don't remember how much money is in it. And the judge just cut him off right there. He established minimum points of contact. The guy was trying to escape personal jurisdiction, and instead the judge tricked him into establishing the jurisdiction for the judge himself. That way the judge didn't have to worry about it.
Right. I guess it's just best to I have a friend who's very good. He's very good at this. He used to be a cop and all that, and he's been proved. Back in the day, he was put through the meat grinder and all that. Long story short, his recommendation is never to go in. Don't go in. As soon as you get an issue, send in a simple abatement, or like what you and I have, the cancellation of representation to the agency and all that. Just send it in, and don't go in. That's it. But if you do have to go and attend because you were arrested, then the best thing to do is to just not say anything, or answer the questions with something nonsensical, like, for instance, where do you sleep? On a bed. I sleep on a bed. Yeah, but where? Well, I don't know, on a bed with 4 legs. Something stupid like that. Because we've also been programmed to answer questions assuming that we know what they're asking, and that gets us into trouble as well. Just listen to the question, like you always say. Listen to the question and just answer the question like a kid would answer the question.
And realize that they're not just trying to make small talk with you. They're trying to accomplish something. They're doing everything for us, very specific reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Exactly.
I've got a video clip on the YouTube channel, and it's just kind of a mock skit clip, but it's a supposed police officer asking this young Indian gentleman, where he lives, and he says, "Oh, I live under the stars." You know what I mean? Near the creek, and whatever else he says. And the police officer gets frustrated, and he turns to the guy's friend and says, "Okay, well, where do you live?" He said, "Oh, I live next to him."
Oh, no. Well, uh, better hang out with better friends, right? So to speak.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, but that right there was just an example of the officer trying to establish some sort of personal jurisdiction regarding the dwelling place of um, this young guy. And so it was kind of hilarious.
Let me ask you this because I don't know. I've asked some people, and it's. I think I asked you the last time that we had a conversation. It's why? Why is this happening? Why is this? I have an idea of why this is all occurring, but it seems to me that these agencies, these governments, these governmental agencies, they have a beef against us. They're waging war at every instance they get. And it seems to me that the whole purpose for this is to extract our time from us and money and create revenue. Doesn't it seem that way? I mean, is there? It can't just be law and order, because to me, from where I stand, they are disorder. They don't
Well,
follow
I
the
would
law,
say
just
there's
like you said. They follow procedure, they follow code, they follow statute, they follow private law. But they are
yeah.
in disorder. It just doesn't seem right. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem right.
Well, I think we need to look at the bigger picture of it, and there's a couple aspects to it, and one of it is to ensure public safety, law and order, right? And but a second portion of it also is to make sure that you definitely feel their jackboot on your neck. You know what I'm saying? So that
Yeah,
they maintain a position of dominance. Because as long as they maintain that position of dominance, then they're always going to keep you feeling lesser than them, and that's really what's needed. And I'll tell you what, there is a lot of unlawful, unruly pieces of crap walking around out here. And so, yes, a system like this needs to be in place for those people. Uh, Unfortunately,
I agree.
any officer or whoever uh, cannot really easily distinguish who is one of those people and who's not, but they're just taught to treat people a certain way, so they treat everybody that way. You know what I mean? And that's
Yes,
just
yes.
the unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in. But we're surrounded by a lot of pieces of crap out here, and that's just a fact of life. If people didn't believe that that wasn't true, then they wouldn't lock their car when they get out. They wouldn't lock their doors before they go to bed. They wouldn't be looking over their shoulder every now and then. Keeping their head on a swivel, paying attention to their surroundings. Everybody realizes that, you know, and so
True.
these officers have to, just for their own safety, assume that everyone they run into is one of those individuals.
And so the next question is the ministerial status, the public minister status through a non-501c3 organization like you and I have. I know you don't use that ID, but if a cop knows anything, I know they know that a public minister is a non-combatant. their society. Would you
Right.
agree?
Right.
They know
Yeah.
that because a certain individual that you and I know, he's been stopped quite a few times, and he's presented, his ID, and of course, it's an obvious, it's an obvious thing, his status as a minister, a public minister. And he's been told, you know, from the cop. The cop tells him, I know I can't do anything against you, but just so that you know, you were doing this and this and this. I mean,
Right.
and I know that you've gone through that process as well with cops.
Yep.
I know
Yep.
that one instance you accidentally presented your ministerial paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah. That was with whatever other paper they wanted to see, and they noticed that and made a mention of it. And that was the shortest stop I ever had in my life. And of course, it did not result in a ticket or anything. And I was all right. Be safe. Bye. And I was like shocked. Uh, that was probably my first encounter after I started putting some things in place. And so I was like, okay, this might, I don't know if it's just a one off, if this is just an odd situation, but now I've had well over 20 interactions with law enforcement, and not all of them have involved a traffic stop. Only maybe half of them have. Um, but I no longer think that that was just a one-off situation, because that's pretty much the same exact scenario of every interaction that I've had so far.
Right. Aren't you afraid, though, that if this information gets out there to the people that the system should actually focus on, and these people start doing what you and I are doing, they may actually do a lot more harm for everybody doing this process in the long run.
No, no, I'm not concerned about that occurring, because, like I mentioned, all the pieces of crap running around out there, those people are
Yeah,
very dishonorable people. Nothing they do is in
true.
honor. All right. So they can put on the mask of a minister or whatever they want to do, but it, their persona is just going to scream so loudly that they're a dishonorable piece of crap that none of that stuff is really going to matter.
I totally
Uh,
agree with you. Totally agree with
yeah,
you. Yeah,
they're gonna be
sure.
the ones that, instead of being respectful to an officer when they get pulled over, and so that it's a quick little interaction and boom, you're back on the road, nothing happening. Yeah, these are the people that are going to be uh, only rolling down their window 1 inch. They're going to be screaming, "I do not consent. Am I free to leave? Am I under arrest? Do you have probable cause?" You know what I mean? Those are going to be quickly identify who they are.
Yeah, practically red flags all over the place. So a situation like our friend, who shall not be named, and us, I guess it would just be a matter of just presenting what we know they need, and just go about your business. Thank you very much, sir. I know what you need. Here is what you need. Go check it out or whatever.
Well,
As
yeah, you know what,
amicable
and
and
that
as civil as possible.
exactly. And I'll tell you what, that is one of the things that I kind of laugh about, is because when I first started studying all this stuff and seeing all the different things people were doing and the extra hoops and stuff they were jumping through and stuff, I was like, wait, it's got to be more simple. Let me find, let me find those minimum points of contact. Let me find where all this originates from, and just take care of that without establishing all this brand new stuff with, trust and DOT and whatever else, LLC, whatever you want to call different stuff that people do. And at the end of the day, what I found was just so simple and basic and easy to do. Um, Sorry, it's not as fun, it's not as sexy as all this other stuff might feel like or whatever, but those aren't the things that you're looking to do. That they entrapped everybody under some very basic premises, very simple things. So it's very simple things that you do to take care of it. And
Right.
sorry,
Correct.
it's not as sexy, not as fun, that doesn't seem as cool. You're not sticking a red thumbprint on freaking everything and mailing, you know, everybody under the sun, the sheriff, the governor, the governor's girlfriend, whatever. Now, you know, it's way more simple.
Correct. Yes, yes, indeed. The simpler, the better. You know, less of a headache, less of a headache. Of course, it makes a lot of sense. Um, well, I'll tell you what. That's we need to get together again. I'd like to talk to you about so many topics. This has been definitely fun. Do you have any questions for me, man?
I don't know. No, not really, not off the top of my head. Um, I would say it would be interesting to have one of these talks and go into maybe more of a spiritual direction with things. You know,
Yes.
a lot of, there might be a lot of people
Yes.
out there that are going to say, "Oh, I'm an atheist," this and that. Well, you know what? The state wants you to be an atheist. They would love for you to not believe that in there being a power that is higher than them. They would love that because they know that there's a God. And yeah, they are scared of it. Believe me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like it's definitely they want you to fear them, just like you have been taught. You know, a Christian way. I guess the Christian way has been fear thy God, but these entities, these governmental entities, they want you to fear them, like like a lowercase g God type of deal. Indeed.
Well,
Yeah,
they
definitely.
forever
It's
they forever put their butt on the seat of the most holy. All right, and kind of usurp the throne. I mean, you go back into history. All of the Caesars, they were all hailed as a god. The pharaohs, they were all seen as a god. All these emperors, they were all viewed as a god. And
that's true.
same
That's
thing
true.
today. It's just been toned down a little bit.
It's
I
funny.
remember, I mentioned this one thing though. I remember the January 6th deal with so-called
Yeah.
patriots, going to the Capitol. Da, da, da. There's one scene where one of the security guards or police officers or whatever for the Capitol was actually walking a couple people into Congress and showing them, where Congress assembles at. And he told them, he said, "This is the holiest of holies." It's like, gosh, where have we heard
Wow.
that term, "holy of holies," before?
Yeah. From a Catholic point of view, is the Holy Eucharist.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
the wafer
the
thing.
Holy of Holies, the Holy of Holies was that room in the back of the tabernacle where the Ark of the Covenant was kept, and nobody
Oh,
could
that's
go in
you.
there. Right? Nobody could go in there other than the Levitical tribes. That was the Holy of Holies.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's correct. That's unbelievable. You know, it's funny that we're talking about this, and I think we should talk fully more about this because I know that you posted something very interesting about the Greek scholar, the translator. I think you posted that yesterday, and I'm fascinated by that. I'm fascinated by what he studied, but I'm going to stand back because I don't really know that guy. But anyway, I wanted to mention that this whole thing about God, you determine for yourself who your God is. And I was presented with this statement by one of the judges here, a state judge. He told me, she told me, you know, is the common statement that judges like to throw in there whenever you bring Mosaic law or the Bible into the courtroom, but they see you still sitting on the fence. You're literally sitting on the fence because you don't know what you're doing there. So anyway, she said to me, she said, the statement, pay to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God. Okay, and I unravel the mystery of that statement, and I realize, you know what? That can mean that I am in collusion with God while I am having or possessing or exercising privileges or contracts with Caesar. So I'm practically, my belief system that I don't even know is through action, is that Caesar is my God because I'm contracting with him. You know what I mean? I have accepted Caesar as my God, meaning the government, the local governments or
Absolutely.
the federal government, whatever it may be. And that was an eye opener to me. I realized, wow, what I must do then is realize that Caesar was a creation by God. God, the Creator created Caesar, and in order to pay to God what is God's, I must rescind everything that Caesar has created that I am taking advantage of, at one point or another. Would you say
Exactly.
that is one way to look at it?
Yeah, exactly. Because Caesar sitting on the bench there or whatever, Caesar knows that he really isn't God. But if he sees you going and surrendering to him, surrendering to Caesar, what is Caesar's, he's looking at you as being in dishonor to your real God, to your real creator. And, you're looked at as the lukewarm. What does scripture say about the lukewarm? He says,
Yeah,
I will spew you out of my
definitely.
mouth. I would rather you be hot or cold. And so what does the judge do? He spews you out of his mouth. He throws you in hell. He throws you in jail. That he throws you down there in that hole below the seat of the exchequer, you know, because you've been in dishonor.
Right,
Um,
right. So practically, for one to be in honor with God, but how would you apply what you and I have done, rescinding the representation of the agent and that agency? How would that fit into not acknowledging Caesar as your God and giving everything to the God, the Creator? Because I know we still use certain contracts, certain privileges from
well,
Caesar. How would that? Go ahead.
I'll tell you what I did. All right. Now, resignation as agent isn't the only thing, all right, that I've done. The first thing I've done is I provided what people might consider it to be like a declaration of status, although that is not what I named it. But within that it was a one-page document, and I believe I had 7 or 8 exhibits that defended the positions that I made on that document. And everybody has to be under a law. Okay. No man is an island, right? We heard that. So
Yes.
one of the things that I did regarding the form of law that I'm under is I just made a photocopy of the front of my 1611 King James Bible and sent that as an exhibit to the law that I was under.
Got it. That makes sense. Okay.
Who's
So
going
if
to
they
argue with the
wanted to
Bible?
judge you,
Are they going to argue with the Bible?
no, not at all. But if they wanted to argue at all, would they throw the Bible at you?
I don't know. They're going to throw the book at you? What book are they going to throw at you? The book called the United States
The
Code
Bible itself.
or the Bible? You know what I mean? Nah, they can't throw the Bible at you.
Yeah.
All they can throw at you is United States Code. And if you've already identified the form of law that you're under and that's not it, I mean, that becomes that whole church and state argument, right? And that's exactly what
Separation of state and church.
right. But that's exactly what the state has done. They've taken the position of the church, and they've got a courthouse called a temple in every county, in every state of the United States of America. You'll find the temple there, and you'll find the priest in his black robe sitting in there, uh, sitting at an elevated position above you. and behind him is his office, the Holy of Holies. Now you look at the front
Wow,
rail
that's
in
unbelievable.
front of the courtroom, that front rail in front of the bench there. That's the candlestick stand.
But it's
You've
that is
got,
unbelievable. You know, I I have a friend. I have a family friend that they're Catholic, and recently the father, the head of the household, became a judge down here in somewhere in the Hillsborough area, Tampa area. And, I'm wondering how. I was wondering, wow, okay, so this guy just became a judge of that temple, whatever temple that may be, but it's definitely not a Catholic temple or a Christian temple. How how do you think this guy sleeps at night, knowing what he's doing? Now I know he's a traditional Catholic, meaning he does the Tridentine Mass, the Orthodox Mass. And I know those people are very traditional, very, very holy. They consider themselves, holy and true followers of Christ, to the letter. So they think. How would you say this guy sleeps at night, knowing what he's doing, knowing what he becomes day in and day out?
well, he probably sleeps very well because a lot of these people, what they tend to do is they cherry pick things out of scripture, all right? And so he probably cherry picks out of the book of Ephesians a statement by Paul that said, to be subservient to your government. And because government has been placed there by God. So he probably sleeps very well thinking, gosh, I'm holding a position. I was placed here by God. I'm a very important man.
Well, so he pays to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. And to him, though, they're both one and
That's
the
kind of
same.
hypocritical, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of what people think nowadays, even your average Joe walking down the street, a lot of what people think is extremely hypocritical, and they don't realize it. I was talking to a gentleman here several weeks ago, and we are talking about television and
Yeah.
and what it's all set up for, And I was explaining to him, words holding for a reason. Government. I said, you know what the word government is? The mind. Said to me, is told to me. And he says, oh, good luck with me. And I said, good luck with you. I said, what do you mean by that? So, oh, no, Roy. I said, tell me something. You're flying down the road. You come to blow right through that stop sign, or you stop. Of course, you stop at it. I don't want to get a ticket.
Hmm.
And mind controlled. I said, you're bowing down to Caesar. You don't want to get that ticket. Caesar's controlled your mind. I said, your answer really should be the reason why you stop at that stop sign is because you don't want to harm yourself or anybody else on the road around you. That should be a reason for stopping. But no, your automatic go-to is worrying about getting a ticket from the government.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you did.
So yeah, but people's minds are controlled and twisted, and they don't realize it.
It's funny. I don't think that way. I never really realized that people would actually think. I mean, by the way that some of these individuals drive out there, yeah, they seem to be avoiding getting caught and not paying attention to what they're supposed to be paying attention, which is put the darn phone down.
Yeah,
Pay attention to the road. Have two hands on the stinking flipping steering wheel. Everywhere I go, I think I may have mentioned this to you about 10 years ago before texting. My sons and I would sit at a red light and count how many people were on the phone talking, with one hand on their wheel and one hand on the phone to their ear. And I kid you not, about 7 out of 10 would have a phone up to their ear. But today, it's a scary thought. And I am scared to death because, my son, you met my son, he's 16, and he eventually is going to be traveling around in a car. And I'm like terrified because like you see out there now is one wheel, one hand on the wheel, the head down looking at the phone, people texting, their head down away from where their eyeballs should be, which is straight ahead. That is a frightful thing to see out there. And I kid you not, every day I go out there, I see at least 1 out of 3 individuals doing this. I pay attention. I don't know if you have, but I have to pay attention because I have to be worried about these individuals. I'm like, okay, let's slow down, let them go by.
Well, you sit at a red light, and when it turns green, you always hear somebody honking because people ahead of them are on their phone, doing whatever. But yeah, I met your son. Your son, I believe, is a excellent, upstanding young man. Lots for you to be proud of there, and he'll definitely be paying attention to what's going on around him, even though not everybody around him is paying attention. At least he will be. So he's got that going for him.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, brother.
Well, my time is up. Let's have another discussion maybe Sunday or next Thursday. You pick a day. I really like doing this.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we could do something Sunday if you want, probably.
Sure.
We'll get together.
Think about a topic. Yeah, let me think about a topic and I'll send it to you. All right, Brian.
All right, brother.
God bless.
Hey, you be blessed, and everybody listening, have a blessed day. Accept the blessings. Realize the blessings that have been bestowed on you. Don't be thinking about how everybody's out to get you and how negative everything is, because it's not. The light will overcome the darkness. Good night, guys.
Fantastic. God bless. Bye-bye.